the secret to posing. I want to ask you guys this very important question. This is going to be crucial. And I want to bring up one real quick because I know that Ben is going to be super excited about this. This is his favorite figure to pose, apparently. That's what he told me. Because this is Throbbing, you know,
what
slash
part is he
Robin.
posing?
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Well, I mean, he's already posing technically, even out of the box.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I'm going to ask you guys, what is the secret to posing? Because I think a lot of people really, I know there's a lot of people who are looking for videos that say, you know, how the 5 best poses for this character. How can I pose more effectively? Because it's difficult. It's really not easy. It takes a lot of time to get better at it. With me, I'm still trying to get better at it. So now that I do reviews, when I do them, I'm like, man, I got to pose this figure. It's going to take time. Because usually I put the guy in like one pose, something I'm comfortable with that I like, and I move on for a bit. I don't really engage as much with posing, but I want to ask you guys, what's the secret to posing? And Ben, I'll start with you actually first on this one. What is your secret to posing? I mean, I know you did a lot here with the cape and with just getting him in a sort of museum character-like pose, but what do you do that makes you happy with your pose?
For sure. Well, I mean, this was super basic. Like, this was fresh out of the box. I literally just tilted the head, put a different hand on it, and was tweaking it. And, like, I mean, you obviously got a still from the video. I think the secret to posing is taking your time. Don't rush it. You know, enjoy the process, because it can be a little stressful sometimes testing the limitations of your figures. Knowing what the limitations of the figure is before you buy it helps. So like you said, if there's a video out there on posing, watch it, right? Get a feel for it. But I also think it's subtlety. There are figures like that Robin that really can't pose at all. I thought people were exaggerating when they said that the Val Kilmer Batman and Throbbing couldn't pose, and I was like, okay, like they can probably pose. Maybe you just don't want to push the limits all that hard. And like I got the Batman yesterday, and it was actually the Batman that I was suggesting was my most frustrating experience, Will, because it can't you can't turn the head, you can't really bend the arms, you can't twist the feet, like. You can't make him even look like he's anything more than like right out of the box, which is really tricky. I like to have my figures in mostly a standing upright pose, but it's the subtle body twists, the subtle tilt of the head. It's like no human stands perfectly up and down with their arms directly at their sides. And so if you leave your figure in that pose, it might not look very natural. And I think just having some subtlety to it, you can like what's a good example? The Killmonger there on the left side in the collection. You know, he's got subtly bent arms. That's about as much as I would have been willing to bend the suit on that, because I was worried that I would crease the suit too much over time and it would break. And these are expensive items, right? So we don't want to burst the figure out of their body. I know our buddy, not Riley, but Nick, yeah, or Niche.
He broke his Mando.
I know, he ripped the arm out of it and stuff, right? I mean, like it happens, and so I would never want to say, you know, push your figure because it's yours. But do those subtle twists. Work on the knee bends. Work on the subtle feet positioning. Work on the head tilts. And as I said, just take it real slow. I don't like to watch screen captures of movies. I know people like to do that as well. They'll watch the movie and then try and get some inspiration out of that. I don't think that's a bad idea. I just like trying to come up with something that fits my collection. And I find sometimes I'll do a pose and I'll put it on the shelf, and with the other figures doing their poses, it's like too much, and I actually reduce the pose a little bit to make it look a little bit more museum-esque, like you see here in the picture. So
yeah,
I don't know if that's a great nugget of knowledge necessarily, but take your time, know the limitations, and just try and have some fun with it. But subtlety is the key.
Yeah. You know what I would say is a secret, Ben? Honestly, copying the photos, because you can go on Sideshow and other places that list the blogger photos. You know what I do? A lot of times I look at those and I copy it because I find one that I really like and I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. I can do that. Because you can take movie stills from the film, you can do whatever and just, you know, and make it your own. But like people have said, you risk damage, you think things like that. I know we got Iron Logan in the chat, the posing master. Figures are a conduit for your creativity. The question is, how do you want to remember the character you're posing when you look at it? Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. So, and to me, like I said, I usually find a pose from the original blogger photo, the blogger photos from the release, or the photos of the announcement. And I look at that, I'm like, that's really dope, actually. And I like how they did that. So I'll try to copy that. Or honestly, one thing you can do is just like free ball it. Like you just go through and you're just like mess with the figure a little bit. And you're like, okay, that looks kind of cool. What if I adjust this? And you get creative with it, so you can make it work. But Kiko, what do you think? I know you do a lot of posing because you do a lot of photography. What is the secret for posing to you?
You hit it on the head with the subtlety. It's if you're looking even that Harley or whatever, there is not much going on. It's just a simple head nod. And I'm the worst person to ask this because I think a lot of my stuff is really, I wish I was better. I think we all do. But I'm trying to see if there's anything worthwhile there.
There we go.
Not much. But either way, it's the subtleties. It's sometimes just putting a head nod down. And one of the things I noticed for me is that everything we do, and I know someone talked about it in the comments there, and Iron Logan is one of the best posers out there. So I mean, obviously anything he says goes. And posing with Peter is great, another classic YouTube posing channel. But with us, even right now, none of us are sitting like this. We all go past the 90-degree mark. Right. And I think that needs to be our litmus test for when you're posing something. Is everyone's like, well, I don't want to push it. Well, at the same time, it is a figure. It is meant to move. And if your figure does have double jointed elbows, people make a big deal about that. And I understand why, because you get to move past the 90-degree mark. When the new clones came out, that was one of the big things, is that they were double jointed elbows. So you didn't have a figure like this. You now had one like this, which was more, realistic, because we move our bodies like that. But one of my favorite things, and I'll shut up after this one, is that when it comes to the posing, is the waist and torso crunch and like twist or whatever, because we pivot like that. And I keep saying we because they're little miniature versions of humans for the most part. And so it's our torso. And so if you just have something moved and you move the torso a little bit like that, it looks like it's in motion, and the torso allows it to look like it's in motion a little bit. I really like that figure. I really do. And I think people are sleeping on it for real.
They're both amazing.
They're both incredible. So if you are thinking about getting those Batman and Robin thing, but yeah, just look about how simple it is. Just a simple head nod down, the head nod down, and probably the wrist move. That's probably my thing. I'm not good at it, but it's subtlety, 100%.
Yeah, I think subtlety too. And honestly, taking inspiration, that would be the secret to me. Taking inspiration from others and from professional photos. So there are plenty of them out there. And, and I see Nick in the chat, Mr. Nish Collectibles, about breaking his figures. So and he said, you're not posing if you're not breaking your figures. So, yeah, I guess not, bro.
I thought that one came broken. The
story's that's what I heard. That was the story.
You hate to see it.
That was the story. You do hate to see it. So, but yeah, I mean, and Kiko, like I said, even if you keep the poses simple like this, bro, as long as they fit the character, they work.
Yeah, I know you always talk about the character pose, and I don't have room to do dynamic posing. Yeah. And I think kind of what Ben was saying is that, sometimes too much makes it look silly. And if you're just going for something simple to make it look alive, I mean, they're miniature, almost alive looking people. So make them move a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I do. Honestly, I have a lot of museum character poses like this, Kiko, like what you have here. I have a lot of stuff like that. And I know, Ben, it looked like you did too. Because dynamic poses take up a lot of space. They take up a lot of space. Because you're spreading out. Like, even honestly, I have Chromando right now, and I have him with the Darksaber in his hand, and I'm like, the Darksaber's taking up too much room. So it's like,
that's true. It does, because I mean, it's long, man. Yeah,
and it's like I think I'm gonna put the gun in his hand. I think that's ultimately the pose.
I went with the spear for me.
The spear is dope, bro.
Yeah,
it feels really like not cheap, but like light in your hand. Yeah, but it looks cool.
It looks good. I like it. I'm so glad you got that figure, man.
Yeah, dude, I was getting that thing. That thing's amazing. But yeah, guys, let us know in the chat what you think the secret to posing is, because everyone's gonna have a different approach on it. But we got some really good posers in this community that like Iron Logan in the chat that are doing some really good stuff. So there's a lot of inspiration out there to be found. But when you pose a figure, honestly, it can bring it a whole new life to it. Because sometimes you have a figure and you're like, yeah, this is a pretty good figure because you got into a decent pose. Then you change up the pose slightly and change it to something else. And you're like, damn, this is a really good figure, actually.
Dude, you're so right. I had that experience with my Sideshow Deadpool the other day because I have my two Deadpools side by side now. And I was getting ready to sell the figure. I'd got kind of bored with it. I just was like, maybe I'll just sell it and again, free up the square for somebody else. And I was like, screw it. I got my new light box, so I've been just having fun with taking pictures. And I posed them up in the light box, took a couple pictures, and it was like just like that. Immediately came back to life for me. And it's now back out in my main display room again. Like, it was on the cusp of selling, and now it's back in the main display. Like, You're right. Just freshening your poses sometimes, even like, and it's fun. Like, I don't know if you guys are the same way. Sometimes I'll just like walk past my display and like look at it, open the cabinet door, like tilt the
I do
head
that a
slightly,
lot, for real, yeah.
and then like walk away.
Oh,
and
I
be
do
like,
it all the time. I think we all
like
do
it.
Because you walk past it, you're like, it's not exactly right, and you
Something's
change
off
it slightly.
Yeah. And
Yep.
then, and as I said, it was like that stormtrooper pose I was telling you about, Cuco. Like, man, that brought that figure back to life for me. I'm loving it.
Right.
Every time I look at it now, it's like it's capturing my attention. So
Yeah.
it's great.
And we got Gina B collecting in the chat. Good to see you, Gina. Does anybody finally settle? Yeah, I don't, it's hard. It's hard because when you get a pose, like sometimes
That's a good point.
eventually you do feel, I guess, confident, and you just feel settled. You feel like, okay, this is a really good pose, and I'm happy with it. You know, I'm content. Content is the word I'm looking for. I walk past it, and I'm like, okay, this pose is dope. I'm content with it. Maybe I'll change it again at some point, but the figure looks alive with how it's posed. So yeah, I think eventually you will settle. You'll settle on it. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that one. We got a couple super chats we want to hit real quick.